We're now going to move on to exercise 2 of this lab on Power Automate. We're going to add in some conditional logic to change the behavior depending on what happens when a flow has been approved. To do that, we need to add a new step. Now we can collapse this step and just select new step. And we can type in condition into the search. In the cell which refers to the condition, we need to choose a value. And in this case, we want the outcome. So we can select the outcome. And if the outcome is equal to approve, then we'll head down one path. If it's not approved, then we'll head down the other path. So what we're going to do now is we're going to update that record. So add an action. And we're going to look for that SharePoint list again. And we're going to use the search to update the item. So it's update item. And the question is, which item are we going to update? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to tell them the list that we're interested in. So we tell them the site, then we tell them the list, which is our device order SP. And the ID is the ID that we originally found, the thing that triggered this off in the first place. Now, in this case, none of the fields apart from ID are required. So what we can do in status is we can actually type in approved. Notice that this is just a text field. It will change the nature of how the data looks, but it's not a full, it's not a clever field with choices and so on. It's a very simple field that we're using. Now, if you are specifically interested in adding the approval date, what we would need is a field that will allow us to enter that in. In this case, I don't have that field, but I can actually create one. I'll go to Microsoft Office, go to SharePoint. I need to navigate to my SharePoint list. And in this case, I can see it on the left-hand side, or I could go to my site contents. I could find it from there. Device order SP. I've got 3 items in there at the moment. So what I can do is add a column in there, and I can actually add a date and time field. And I'm going to say it is a date and time field. I'm going to say date approved. And then click save. That field has been created now. And what we can do is we can now head back to flow within Power Apps. Now, it doesn't know that we've created this field. So what we'll need to do is we need to save out. Then we'll need to come out and then return back and edit that item. Go on to the condition, update the item, and you can see we've got a date approved. Now what we're going to do is we're going to add an expression in. We won't do too much of this, and this one's going to be called UTC now, so universal time for now, and then I'm going to click on OK, and then that will add that into the date approved field. And finally, we save the flow. What we're now going to do is we're going to add another action. So in this case, we're going to add an action down here. We're going to send a mail out. The easiest one is to click on the mail icon here, send an email notifications v3, and then select that. Who are we going to send this to? Well, we're going to send it to requested by. In fact, that's not the, it's actually created by in this case. And we could also send it to the approver email as well. To do that, I can just type in APP and I can see responses approver email. But in this case, I won't do that because I am aware there is a possibility that it will be sent to more than one approver. It could have been approved by more than one approver, and as a result it would then effectively have there's a technique by which it would send an email out to multiple approvers. But we're not going to go down that that technical route at this point. We're just going to get an email back to the individual. As an alternative, we would in theory be able to use the modified by email, because that in theory would be the approver themselves. Now we can enhance the email. Your device has been approved. And we can say your device has now been approved. And there's a slightly kind of pro tip, if you like, that if we click on this code view, we're actually doing it in HTML here. So there's slightly enhanced work that we can do, or we can switch ourselves back. So there are alternatives there. And we can say estimated ship date and so on. And we can probably put something about, if there's any comments, approver comments as well, because I believe that as part of approver, we can see there are some comments that could have been made at that time. In fact, you'll also find that this will potentially add in multiple lines, so we'll leave that one for the moment. But as before, we can actually say device name, and then we can say the price as well. And perhaps just in front of that, we'll put a pound notes sign. And then finally, we'll click Save. And that brings us to the end of exercise 2, where we introduce conditional logic into our flow.